Good day. I would like to present some of the most important spiritual works of mercy that are relevant in any age and which is to instruct the ignorant, guide others to the path of changeless truth, life of virtue, or helping others with religious and moral education, which of necessity frequently involves admonishing the wrongdoers, the evildoers, who are on path of self-destruction, who are gravely deviating from divine truth. As the sacred writer John 8:33 reminds us, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free," meaning that a human being cannot be truly free, cannot be wholly human, cannot be personally and spiritually healthy unless he or she knows the truth and is living in accordance with the truth. So health of the soul, and thus health of society, comes from knowing the truth and living in accordance with the truth. So wisdom is truth put to practice. A good society, simply put, aims at working for the common good according to unchanging eternal standards. And a just society upholds the dignity of human life from conception to natural death, puts first the needs of the most vulnerable, like the preborn children or the poor, views family, mother, father, and the children as the fundamental, most important unit in implanting the essence of the moral principles. We were given the moral principles in 10 commandments, or the Decalogue, and the natural law. The natural law is the universal moral law of human nature for living well. It is universal. It is valid for all people. Its principles can be understood by reason and without the help of faith. For instance, murder, theft, lying are always recognized as contrary to what is good for human life. So the Decalogue, the natural law, are the precepts that we must uphold because they are rational, they are good in themselves, and they are part of God's plan for us, written into our shared human nature. They are some practices and acts that are always intrinsically evil, regardless of circumstances and intentions. For example, killing preborn children, infanticide, mercy killing, sodomy, transgender, the absurd notions of transgender ideology, the same-sex marriages, in vitro fertilization, surrogate motherhood, all those are intrinsically evil practices. For example, in the in vitro fertilization, they are used immoral and perverted methods in order to conceive a child. And many embryonic children are treated as a mere matter to be destroyed in order to procure one child. Science is also clear that sex changes are impossible. Every cell of the human body remains coded with one's birth gender for life. We also know that 6,500 differences between male and female. So those individuals who reject divine authority and order, venturing into those evil, intrinsically evil acts and practices, are venturing into madness, are venturing into something even more dangerous than madness of darkness, into self-deception, into self-destruction. And by being the enemies of faith and reason, they become self-deluded, self-deceiving, and by degrees they suppress the voice of conscience, and therefore by doing so destroy their own souls. So those individuals who claim to be Christians, yet they fail, they support those evil practices and evil acts, and fail to admonish the evildoers. They are not authentic Christians, and they are themselves on the road of self-destruction, spiritual self-destruction. In addition, they are spreading scandal. Our divine master was unambiguous, very clear, with stern warning about those who cause scandal. In Matthew 18:6, he warned us that it would be better for those who cause scandal that a millstone were hang around the neck and that he were drowned into depths of the sea. As Christians, we not only follow the law, the divine law, the Ten Commandments, and the natural law, but also the law of grace. In Romans 6:14, we are reminded that sin no longer is our master. We are no longer slaves of sin, but we are under the law of grace. They are actual graces and sanctifying grace. Actual graces are supernatural pushes that God gives us from the outside. For instance, reminds us of the need for repentance, where sanctifying grace dwells within us when we are free from mortal sins and sanctifies the soul, makes the soul holy, gives supernatural life to the soul. By committing mortal sins, for instance, the extreme sin like sodomy, the sanctifying grace leaves our souls, and the soul is spiritually dead. There is an utter separation from God and the soul, unless the soul repents from that sin or any mortal sins. Sanctifying grace cannot coexist with mortal sins. Mortal sins, by their nature, are saying no to God. Whereas when someone lives in sanctifying grace, it's always saying yes to God. So the soul must be purified from any mortal sins in order so the sanctifying grace dwells within the soul and gradually purifies the soul and makes it holy. Also, not only serious sins, mortal sins, we need to eradicate, but also venial sins. Some people have fondness for gossiping or any negative patterns of behavior or tendencies. They must be also eradicated since they paralyze the action of divine grace within the soul. And sin, as tragic as it is, if people stay in that darkness of mortal sin, but denial of sin is something worse, because it's a refusal to acknowledge for the need of forgiveness and repentance, doesn't see the sins, doesn't regret the misdeeds, and therefore God cannot act upon the soul fully. The soul refuses to cooperate with God's graces. It's deaf and blind to the inspirations from God. And this, in effect, can lead to more serious sins. So it's very important to eradicate and work constantly on those little sins, but they are not little in the sight of God. We live in societies that, to a considerable degree, canonize capricious, unreasonable human will. In society that there is absence of so frequently of logical reasoning, for choices are dictated frequently by changeable intentions, situations, and passions. And whenever passions control and dominate reason, rather than reason controlling and maintaining passions, there is bleak future for ensuring authentic morality, an impossibility for our civilization to survive. So first we have to keep ourselves in a state of grace in order to be able to lead others to the path of truth faithfully. The truth that is always freeing, liberating, and always healing. And may God bless us with vigilant minds and souls, not only to defend the immutable truth for which our Redeemer also died, but be assisting others faithfully to guide them to that path of truth, to the path of being liberated from the ugliness of the gravest sins and the smallest sins, and therefore fulfill our baptismal obligations, our baptismal promises to reject the works of the evil one and to lead others to the path of salvation, to admonish. We have too many Christians who never admonish another Christian. We must have moral courage to admonish the evildoers And in this way, we'll be practicing our obligations as Christians and fulfilling the necessity of spiritual works of mercy that are so needed in this world today. God bless you in your efforts. Thank you for your attention.